ngā whānau mā, e ngā mihi mahana kia koutou. We are Kulios and we're very happy to be here today. My name is Joe Harrop and I'm joined on cello Sarah Spence, and later we will be graced with the fabulous viola player David Rawsthorne. We're going to start our concert off today with a fabulous composition by the violinist and traditional fiddler Mark O'Connor. Mark was one of the first violinists to start to really straddle both worlds of the classical music sphere and the traditional American fiddling. And the piece we're going to hear today, F. C's Jig, is taken from his fiddle concerto that he wrote. Definitely a fiddle concerto, not a violin concerto. So the tune is taken from the final movement, and FC, of course, stands for fiddle concerto. So this was written for himself and the great cellist Yo-Yo Ma, and it's on an amazing album. I'm sure you've listened to it, but if you haven't, please do, called Appalachian Spring. This is F. C's Jig by Mark O'Connor. So we got together in the studio, and we were recording the Black Hands and Black Hands Suite and the music. And what was interesting about it, first of all, the music grabbed me, and I felt that there was something in this music beyond just being amazing for the screen, but within itself, it expressed. It was very intensively expressive, and I thought that would translate to the live performance world. And yeah, we spoke about it, and then about 6 months later, we emailed and goes, "Shall we do it?" And
yeah, totally. I'm really glad that you made that suggestion at that viola session, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
you were doing all those gnarly harmonics.
Yeah.
You were like, this is great. I mean, it could have been something different, you said,
Yeah.
So I'm really glad you did, because, it led me off on the path of really writing something, a bit more attention demanding. Of the sort that performance music, should be, when it doesn't have to sit behind actors and visuals and sound effects and
I mean, that's the thing, because the nice thing about the sort of double life of this music, you have it as performing a function within the screen work, but also for us as a trio, it fits very well with another repertoire.
Oh, that's good.
You can have a big work like the Kodály, like the Dohnányi, or maybe Mozart, long work, and then you have this sort of 7 to 10 minute, depending how quick you play it. It's got lovely variation within it, and it counterpoints whatever the heavier piece might be, for want of a better word.
Oh, that's good.
And it's got wonderful context, it's a very rich background to it as well. So that all of that to a performer, very attractive. We'd now like to welcome David on stage. David Rawsthorne, everybody, please give him a warm welcome. We'd like to rearrange ourselves into a trio, and while we're doing that, it's my great pleasure to introduce the composer of our next piece, Karl. He's going to say a few words about the Black Hands Suite. Thank you, Karl.
Kia ora. Yes, I was asked to come up with some music to score the series Black Hands about the Bain family and that tragedy in the 90s, and obviously that was a challenge on lots of levels, but they were a very music-loving family, and so I tried to reflect that in my contribution to the series, and while we were working on that, Joe here was one of the performers on that score in the studio, and he came up with the idea of, wouldn't it be interesting to turn some of these pieces into something suitable for performance, live performance. And so, that's what I did, with a lot of help from Joe here, and then ultimately Kulios here, these guys played it some pre-pandemic time, it's great to have them back again, playing it again. So thank you guys, and thanks for coming.
I can't help thinking of parts of Stravinsky's Poetics, these lectures that he gave in the States. And Stravinsky was a great one for putting the most information and being the clearest. He saw the performer as an agent of his creativity.
Right.
However, when you're one composer in the studio doing film scores and work for screen on the one hand, and then you are a composer for live performance, I mean, I see them in terms of control, perhaps, of the composers, opposite ends of the spectrum, do you think? Or
Well, I think it's always a dialogue, you know what I mean? Like, just the whole concept of writing something down in silence, putting it in front of someone, and then it's like, go music. That can't be seen from my perspective as an extension of my will. They are just a puppet, and I pull the strings via my, writings. I just don't see it that way. I think it's the musician making the music. I'm giving them a structure within which to make music.
Totally.
And that's really important to me, that you guys are the ones making some music, and I'm just setting it up for you.
I mean, it's very cool that we can have, on the one hand, we can listen to the soundtrack of Black Hands, watch the movie with it, or watch the screen if we want to as well, and that's from you using the sounds that we've produced. And then we can have the performance, which is through these, I wouldn't call them filters, but various things which really mush it up. I mean, the representation alone on the page, it's such a vague thing. There's actually so little information. People think, it's written down in the score, it must be exactly how the composer wanted it. I mean, you've now had the experience where it definitely is not. We're now going to move on to our final piece, the Serenade by Ernst von Dohnányi, a Hungarian composer. This is in 5 movements. They're all quite different. Starts off with a march, then goes through the romance, then a scherzo, and then a theme and variations, of course, which is when you have the theme presented to you, and then Dohnányi weaves his compositional magic around it, and then we finish off with a presto finale. And there's no question, you definitely know it's the finale of the piece. The Serenade was written in 1904, and Dohnányi was a huge presence in Hungarian music at the time. And you've got to remember that there were 2 other fantastic composers doing their thing. A guy called Zoltán Kodály, who, amongst other things, brought to the fore our do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do kind of learning. You might have heard of the Delprose method or the Kodály method of learning music. And the other chap was a guy called Béla Bartók, who used amazing folk songs in his compositional idiom. So it really was a very fertile time before World War I in Hungary for music, and you'll hear it here. You can hear elements of the first Viennese school, and also Brahms and that sort of thing. But then you can hear it facing forward towards his perhaps more challenging contemporaries, Béla Bartók. An interesting little fact about Dohnányi: he was a real advocate for Jewish musicians in the time of World War II, and this did get him into a lot of hot water with the Third Reich. Anyway, 5 movements. Serenade in C major, opus 10 by Ernst von Dohnányi.
I like seeing you guys play this afternoon. The sort of density musically of those first and last pieces, and then having a piece that originates with film score, the Black Hand stuff in the middle. It's kind of, there's just a bit more breathing room, and it's it's a break from the intensity, but it has a different kind of it's sort of emotional intensity. So I found the whole show really cool.
Yeah, I mean, we called today negotiating a creative path. I mean, that was in my head in terms of what we did in the studio versus what we do here, and the working processes. The vibe is the same, but the outcome can be quite different in terms of how you as a composer work with us in the studio as players, and then how you negotiate with us through the score and also through rehearsals here in the live thing.
That's interesting. Like in the studio, you can go really granular. You can just zone in on a tiny note and go, "Can we do 18 takes of that note and just brush it softly and then do this and that?" And so you've got so much control via the technology of making a collage in a way of all the best everything, whereas with a live performance it's more like you strap the backpack on and just go, see you in 6 months, and so trying to put everything on the page, or at least us having had the conversations that's going to set the performers up to be able to make actual music without any editing, just live streaming it's a different challenge, and I really like it.